Cloud9. Jack, going to do a little pregame interview leading into the Cloud9 TSM series that we've got going on today. But before we get to that matchup in particular, I want to take a trip down memory lane. Let's go all the way back to split one for Cloud9. You've got Balls, Meteos, High, Sneaky, Lemonation. Talk to me about the formation of this team, you know, the way that those personalities meshed, and kind of what your guys' initial journey was here in the North American LCS to find such tremendous success at such an early stage.
You're going way back for me to think about those days, and it was a whirlwind success period. The early days, High had just qualified for the LCS under Quantic, and he approached me as someone to make a team for him that could give him all the support he needs to be successful in the LCS. And I was looking for a team. I actually, a lot of people don't know this at the time, but I actually had owned Coast at the time, and things weren't working out with the roster, and I was trying to make the impact I wanted to make on the roster, and they weren't happy with it. So it gave me this opportunity to actually let go of that team and pick up Quantic and build this team with High, Lemonation, Sneaky, Balls, and the crew that we saw at that time.
And you guys went 25-3 in the regular season, sweep the playoffs, 6 games to 0, right? So now all of a sudden we're at 31-3. That's a 91% win record in the very first split of the North American LCS for Cloud9. You've set a tremendous bar for yourself at this point for every future split. And so I guess my question to you now moving forward is, with that lineup, you guys had, ups and downs as a roster, but you never quite achieved that same level, right? That 31-3 split. Talk to me about being an organization that has had to deal with, this expectation of being top 3 or winning the North American LCS and representing at Worlds every single season.
It's really tough when you have a split that we were that dominant. Like, it didn't matter how far we were behind. I still felt like we were going to win it. And the LCS has changed. It's grown up a lot. The practice schedules of the teams have changed, and the seriousness that everyone takes when they approach LCS has completely been raised. So I don't think that we'll ever have another season quite like that where we're that dominant. But I don't really think about it in my daily life. What I really am thinking about is trying to make sure that we approach every day with a positive attitude, ready to learn, and with a drive and passion to win. That's really what I focus on with my team.
Well, and so here you are, right? However many years later, 3 years later, and the roster has changed. Just last week, you actually had to play against some of your children, in a sense, right? I mean, it was watching your kids fight. You've got Balls, High, Lemonation on one side. You've got your organization in Cloud9 and Sneaky, the remaining face of that original lineup, on one side. What was that like to watch, the success of the Cloud9 players continue throughout the North American LCS, but not all of them on your team?
It was actually, I think the weeks leading up to that event was a lot more worrisome than the actual game, because what I didn't want to see was my team get crushed by Fly, and I didn't want to see those players that I have such a strong connection to get crushed by us. And I honestly, I couldn't have ended better with a 3-game series that was really tight, where they could hold their heads high even though they lost to us. And that's, for me, obviously the perfect ending.
Absolutely. FlyQuest still sitting there right in 3rd place, so in contention for top spots when it comes to playoff runs and perhaps visitation to Worlds come summer split. But now let's go ahead and look at where Cloud9 is at now, right? Undefeated in this split still, going up against his. That's right? Undefeated here. So in a sense, you said maybe we won't be able to repeat split 1 of our NALCS careers, but you're already on the track to doing something pretty great in the undefeated split. But you've done it with 4 new players, right? An entirely different roster. So talk to me about the Cloud9 organization and having to return to that same level of competition, but with new players, with new coaches, with new infrastructure behind you.
Right. So this didn't happen overnight. This was the culmination of months of work. We needed to move to a system where players could almost be modular. We could plug them in, and they understood what it took to be a Cloud9 player. The effort that was expected and the passion and to actually win was there. We also had to have the correct coaching staff, correct management behind us. So it took a long time to get where we were, and we obviously had some serious stumbles. Summer of 2015 was brutal for us. We never had a losing split before, and to go through that just highlighted how important it was for we need to build a system where we will never have that happen again.
Right, but here they are back up on top. And now specifically related to the matchup today, how are the players feeling in terms of pressure? Because some of these guys, right, joined the team much later than that stigma of Cloud9 being such a dominant team. But the expectation now is that they will beat TSM and pretty handily today, even though TSM's sitting in second. So is the pressure starting to, build up and make its gains on the team, and how are we dealing with that?
Well, I think the system that we have in place right now actually has the players' heads in a good spot. They take it one game at a time. They don't think about what happened the last prior weeks. They understand what it takes to actually win. It's possible we could lose. If we lose, we're not gonna cry about it. We're gonna get ready for the Sunday's game.
Well, and Sunday's game, you're actually going up against Meteos, of all people, who's subbing in for Inori. So as we talk about your players making their way around the North American LCS, Cloud9 as an organization has actually been kind of the home base, or maybe the launching pad for a number of individuals, not even the core 5 that you guys started with.
Yeah, I mean, I see Dignitas, I see Lod. Lod lived in our game house for months. And Keith was a part of the organization. You could look over in Europe, you can see a lot of the Cloud9 Clips guys and H2K. We are constantly scouting for new talent. And that's a big piece of what makes us be consistent. And that's a big part of the future of Cloud9 as well.
All right, well, final question, just to put a close on this. Does Cloud9 win the North American LCS Spring Split?
I'm thinking about TSM today.
All right, okay, that's an acceptable answer. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right now. And, of course, best of luck to your team in the matchup later today.
Thanks for having me.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head to a commercial break for just a moment, but we'll be